Calgary's July real estate numbers are in, and for the first time in several months, we saw the benchmark price move backwards. But before anyone interprets that as a major shift in the market, there's some important context. Calgary's benchmark price had actually been climbing gradually through the first half of the year, reaching $572,500 in June. In July, it slipped only about 0.6% to $569,200. And quite frankly, this wasn't unexpected. We typically see our strongest activity through the spring and early summer, followed by some seasonal slowing as we get further into summer. Sales were down 9% compared to last July, and new listings were down even more at 15%. Overall, Calgary ended July with about 3.5 months of supply. I generally consider about 2.5 months to be balanced, so at 3.5 months, the overall market is now leaning more in buyers' favor. But that citywide number really doesn't tell the whole story. One of the biggest things I've been talking about throughout 2026 is that Calgary is not one real estate market. Your experience can be completely different depending on what you're buying or selling, your price range, and where in the city you're located. Detached homes continue to be our strongest segment. We're sitting at 2.9 months of supply, with prices down just under 2% from last year. But even with detached homes, there's a big difference by location. The West District had less than 2 months of supply in July, favoring sellers, with prices up actually 2.3% from last year. Compare that with the Northeast, where we have more than 5 months of supply, certainly favoring buyers, and prices are down about 6%. Semi-detached homes are holding up quite well. We're at 2.9 months of supply. Prices are essentially flat from last year, and this was actually the only property type where number of sales increased compared with last July. Again, location matters. Now, when we get into row homes, we start to see more noticeable softness. Row homes are sitting at 3.9 months of supply, favoring buyers. Prices are down just over 6% from last year, and number of sales fell almost 23%. And again, location matters. And then we have apartments, which continue to be the softest segment of Calgary's market. We're now at 4.9 months of supply, number of sales are down almost 20%, and the benchmark price is down more than 8% from last year. And yes, again, location matters. So what does all this mean if you're selling? Pricing matters tremendously in this market. Buyers have more choice, particularly with apartments and row homes, and they are far less willing to overlook an overpriced property. That doesn't mean homes aren't selling, they absolutely are, but your home needs to compare well against the competition, and your pricing needs to make sense to today's buyer. And if you're buying, you generally have more time, more selection, and in many parts of the market, more negotiating power than you've had over the past few years. But don't make the mistake of assuming that because Calgary's overall benchmark price is down, every seller is desperate to negotiate. Some areas and property types are still quite competitive. So my biggest takeaway from July isn't simply that prices went down, it's that Calgary is a selective market. We had 5 consecutive months of modest price increases before July's pullback, and now we're seeing increasingly different conditions depending on the type of property and where it's located. Citywide statistics give us the big picture, but they don't necessarily tell you what's happening with your home or the home you want to buy. So if you're thinking about buying or selling and you'd like to know what's happening in your specific community and price range, reach out. I'm always happy to take a closer look.